What a day to be alive. Welcome to Rise Up with Rick. We are passionate about helping you extract the most out of every day and exploring and enhancing all things physical, mental and emotional well-being and performance. We are brought to you by runners.com. That's runnez.com, as well as rickmirabella.com. Radio, let's launch now.
Oh, g'day and welcome to Rise Up with Rick. My guest today is his mindset and his work is brilliant. I've admired his work for a long time and I love what he's doing in all kinds of fields. Mark Carrazzo is the founder of Be Your Best Now. He's a former barrister and I just love everything he stands for, and he's going to fill us in a lot over the next 30 or 40 minutes on that. I welcome Mark Carrazzo.
Good morning, Rick. Thanks for having me.
Mate, the pleasure is all mine. I mentioned Be Your Best Now. We had a good chat about a month ago, and I was absolutely hanging off every word. A lot of our stuff does correlate, and we do resonate with many things. So I love that. And I love the background you've come from because you've obviously seen a lot. So I guess in starting, I just need you to explain a bit about what you do now, what you're doing now in the field, and then I want to hear about where you come from and some of that because I like to know what makes a person.
Okay, thanks, Rick. Right at the moment, one of the key things I'm doing is driving a program called Be Your Best Now, as you've said. It's a comprehensive wellbeing program based on positive psychology. The point about it is that we want to educate people about all dimensions of their well-being in order to give them, in a sense, the power and the knowledge to self-manage their well-being. And I think up to this date, we've just had little sprinklings of things, but we're trying to sort of working hard to bring it all together and give that to people.
Yeah, and a lot of your stuff, the positive psychology, which we'll talk about, and this kind of stuff, and the self-awareness, and it's really empowering people and giving people a toolbox, which I really love. So, are you doing this in a business sense, in a corporate sense?
Yeah, it's essentially a business workplace program, but it can be fitted anywhere, Rick. So. The thing about it is it's based on positive psychology and we try and cover all the domains of well-being. So, yeah, it's more a corporate thing, if anything.
You can see why I love it. You can see why I love Mark's work because every single day he gets up and he wants to do better in the world and help people to cope better and just live happier and freer and lighter, quote unquote. You weren't always doing this kind of work though. Now tell us, a former barrister.
I started off as a barrister in my 20s, and a good day for me was cross-examining someone in court and getting some guy to admit that he didn't take a file note or something like that. And I feel I've come a long way from that to now really trying to give people the tools to lift themselves and be the best form of themselves. I still have pockets of myself that practice law, but it's a really diminished part of my life now.
Yeah, it's interesting that barristers in. So you obviously grew up in Melbourne, yes?
Grew up in Melbourne. Yeah, I grew up in the northern suburbs of Melbourne, and went to school that way, and basically have lived all my life in Melbourne except for a couple of years I lived in America.
Were you always did you always know, did you have any idea what you wanted to do? You're obviously a very intelligent man if you're going to study law, but where did your passions lie as a teenager and a young fella?
It's a really good question, Rick. I think they say it's only at the end of your life you can look back and join the dots and work it all out. I think at times life as a barrister excited me. I wanted to do that, and then, I'd been through the process and you sort of keep evolving, and I got into consultancy, but in my personal sort of journey, I was always interested in well-being. And as I delved deeper into the corporate world, I could see that there was just a shortage of discussion and an education around well-being, and that's where I saw sort of an opportunity for me to come in and learn a bit about that, and then share it with those people that are turning up every day, 8:30 to 5 or 5:30. Workplace is a big part where we all convene and give them the help there that they need for their well-being and happiness.
Yeah, it's a really good point because I think it's well, in corporate especially, and it's a huge part of everyday life, corporate Australia and in the worldwide corporate scene. You're at a place for a long period of time, 50 hours a week, and you see you're in this environment for most of the time, more often than you are with your family and close friends. So it's really futile to not be happy there. So the happiness and being able to create positive environments, and sometimes it takes a while. But I loved the way you come at things, and we'll get to that. He's a really good, he's from a really good angle, and it's always from a positive and what we can do and how we can flourish and thrive, which we're going to talk about. I love it. I just want to touch the last few years of your full-time corporate work, mate. Um, you obviously starting to evolve, and where were your avenues for, I guess, education, and then did you start to study this stuff while working full-time as a barrister? How did that come to be?
It's a good question. I started studying wellbeing on the side, so to speak, while I was doing my consultancy work, and it started to pique my interest a little bit more. I started with a wellbeing coaching course and based on psychology, and at that point I saw some stuff around positive psychology and this evolving science around wellbeing and happiness. And that's when I suppose, had a bit of a light bulb moment. I got very passionate at that point. I thought, yeah, really, this is something that's really needed, and this is something that I could really get my teeth into and wanted to. So that was about 5 or 6 years ago. And since then, I've done another couple of courses, one at Melbourne University and a meditation course. So, sorry.
Continue.
Yeah, well, I'm a passionate believer, obviously, in education, and that's probably a big thing about Be Your Best Now. If we can educate people around their wellbeing and they're getting the right messages, not those that are coming sometimes from self-interest, people can really help themselves and live the best form of their lives that's possible, which I think is really important.
I think it's good because we're not going to touch on anything negative in this show, but I know that in the corporate space, you've had different people come and go and do these kind of quote unquote speeches. And they're not, yeah, as soon as they're out, they're out. And this kind of stuff is educating but empowering, as I said off the cuff. Now, you do have a massive focus on well-being and happiness. And I wouldn't mind hearing a little bit more about the science around that as well.
Sure. Where I really started is that in about 1998, a gentleman that a lot of your viewers may have heard of called Martin Seligman rose to the head of the American Psychological Association. And but putting it in short terms, Rick, he basically said it's time that we had a subfield of psychology which deals with helping people to thrive and flourish. He was acknowledging the fact that there was some great work being done in helping people that needed help, that were in had orders like depression or anxiety, and acknowledged that and certainly respected it. But he was saying it's time to add to that another field, and that's positive psychology. Now, since he did that about 26 years ago, a lot of science has been added to that now. So, the good news is that we don't have to guess well-being anymore. We can go to science. Not all of it is perfect science, but it's pretty good. And, I suppose with a background in law, I'm excited by the fact that we're getting into a more professionalised, education-based, science-based industry.
Yeah, and we know there's a lot of anecdotal stuff, clearly, but we know that there is a lot of objective data now out there. Can you define thriving and flourishing and thriving for, I guess, a few of the people that are going, well, hang on, that could mean anything. And look, some of the advantages and some of, I guess, the main takeaways that you see and people progressions and advantages for people in this field. And when you use those two adjectives in particular, can you define some of those things?
Yeah, no, it's a good point. Firstly, Seligman spoke about flourishing more. I think for me, I find thriving a bit better. Maybe that's an Australian thing. But regardless of which one you prefer to use, there has been a couple of academics that have tried to define it. And the one I think that might help your viewers is the one that I quote. So it's having a generous amount of positive mood in your life, what we call positive affect, joy, happiness, pride. So you've got a generous amount of that. You're engaged. Engagement is really important for our well-being. So you've got something to get up and do on a daily basis or on a regular basis, an activity, and you feel you've got meaning and purpose in your life. So they're sort of the three givens for people to thrive. But on top of that, these researchers, I think they were from the University of Cambridge, said you should have 3 of the following 6 on top of that. Vitality, something that you seem to have in spades, Rick, is vitality, optimism, resilience, self-esteem, self-determination. By that I mean the ability to have control over your life, a reasonable degree of autonomy, and a good, steady network of relationships. So if you've got 3 of those 6 plus the other 3 permanents, you're said to be, in inverted commas, flourishing or thriving. But you don't have to be that rigid about it. I'm just hoping to give people an idea. And we all know people that we think, gee, they fit into that. You know, I'd like to be like that a little bit more. And that's when we say, okay, let's see the pathway to thriving more in your life. And of course, you know, the really powerful thing is that when you thrive, a lot of great things happen in your life. You have obviously have high levels of happiness. You do better with relationships. You do better with your health. You're obviously more optimistic. You know, some powerful things happen in your life, obviously, when you're happy, and that's built in. It's absolutely locked in so far as the science goes. So it's a really worthy goal, and one sometimes we don't sort of give ourselves the permission to call a goal happiness. You know, as we sort of can easily default into a situation where we say, "Oh, I'll be happy when," or "My happiness isn't important. I really need to do that for others," and which is they're beautiful qualities to have. But you know, I think we should really realise that the science is suggesting that if we want to be successful, in inverted commas, then we need to focus on our happiness, and that's not a big task, but it's one that we just have to be regular about and do little things about on a daily basis.
Absolutely love that, and it's so true. I'll be happy when, or I'll be successful when. It's proven over and over again to be a false narrative, and it's only when we realize this, and it takes time, and everyone realizes stuff at different levels, but to be able to be content and grateful and happy in the moment, and then after we evolve, that creates amazing things. Like good things happen when you're happy and grateful. Good things happen. It's craziness, but it's not always super easy for people. So I love the way that you're coming at it. You got some science over here, but you're not trying to fit everyone in the same box. Everyone can take what they need from that. But you're right. It's the happiness and the gratitude first, and then stuff starts to flow. What about, so this kind of stuff, the positive psychology over here? Love that. Is there anything you can build out from there as far as happiness and that kind of stuff that people can think about in everyday life? So say someone's listening to this and going, yeah, you make good points, boys. You really, I love the philosophy, but I'm really struggling, or I'm just a bit blah, or I'm just struggling to get any form of vitality or get up and go about me, and I'm thinking about comparing myself to others and all this kind of stuff. What would be the first or second, first couple of pieces of advice you'd give there, Mark?
I think there's a range of different areas of your life or domains of your life that you can sort of tweak up to head towards happiness. And different people in my roles will have different favourites. I'm a big favourite of gratitude. I think that's been shown to be a very powerful force in lifting our happiness. You know, practicing gratitude, writing down 3 things at the end of the day that went well. You know, they don't have to be the same things. And if you don't want to write them down, just think about them. Just start to focus on things that are going well in your life. Look, we have a mind. We have beautiful minds. They're made to look for things to go wrong, which is great. Just sometimes they get out of kilter, this what I call negativity bias. So gratitude is a way of counteracting that and even taking us further. And I'd say the other one I think is really important, and it's so simple. Try and get off of autopilot if you can. Try and be in as many moments during the day where you feel present. And, you know, people talk about mindfulness a lot these days. It's not a passing fad. it's very real for Western society that we tend to live on this sort of autopilot. We're driving all the time, driving forward, wanting to achieve stuff, which is great. But there will be parts of the day where we won't even remember happened. And they might be otherwise beautiful moments, like a walking your daughter to school, like I see you do occasionally. Looking at a sunset, looking out at a tree, and just for that moment, even if it's 10 seconds in your day, if you can punctuate your day with little things where you can say, hey, that's not bad, is it? That's really good. You're going to go a long way to start to make little improvements on your happiness. To that end, though, I thought some of your viewers might be assisted by a framework that Martin Seligman came up with himself. And it's an acronym called PERMA. And a lot of people know it, and it's very good. It's not the complete story of positive psychology, but it might help people to understand. Now, PERMA, P stands for positive emotions: joy, serenity, awe, happiness, amusement, pride, those sort of things. So are you getting a generous amount of that in your life? Number one. E stands for engagement. So are you engaged in an activity? We know it's incredibly important that when we're engaged in something which takes our concentration on a moment by moment basis, we're not thinking of negative things. I'm sure you can relate to that. And I've seen you watching from the sidelines take a group of kids through their particular drills. And I know you're in the moment at that time, and I can see you enjoy it. So that sort of level of engagement is important. Even our work is good for us to be engaged. The third R is for relationships. Okay, so connectedness to other people is really critical. The science is very, very strong on this. So it can be anything from "G'day, mate, how are you?" or just a quick conversation you have with someone when you put the bins out at night, or it could be something a lot more meaningful, somebody that I can ring up at 3 a.m. and say, these are my problems. So cultivating relationships, and we do have control over that. The second last one is meaning and purpose. So find something that gives you meaning. It's something bigger than yourself that you enjoy. It might be raising your kids. It could be seeing the running world do better and have better science. It could be to improve the environment. It could be to help out at St. Vincent's on the weekend, or the Sacred Heart Mission, or something like that. So purpose, looking after your aging parents, something that's bigger than yourself, is a really important part of life. And, admittedly, there may be times when you might be seeking that. Well, in those times, you can always spend time with people that you love, or volunteer somewhere, and these things start to appear for you as what's meaningful. And the last one of that A is achievement. So it's nice to finish any day with some sense that I've achieved something, however small that might be. So that's the acronym called PERMA, which might help. Hopefully that's helpful to some.
Mate, you can go over that over. PERMA is a brilliant acronym. Now, I didn't know the acronym, nor the lecturer. Can you repeat his name again?
Martin Seligman.
I'll never forget him again, because everything we just spoke of is very familiar to me, as far as a lot of stuff we go through in a lot of my coaching, 100-day hero stuff and corporate stuff. It's everything. We reverse engineer stuff back from purpose, why, and where they will need, where the individual on team want to be, and it's all around happiness and connection and movement and mindfulness. You mentioned walking your kid to school, your daughter or son to school. One of the great moments of all time, a beautiful sunrise. The sunrise, and I wish, I don't regret anything, but you rush through life when you're younger, and the sunrise is just one of the great things on earth. And I think we're the lucky ones, because we can understand that, and hopefully our job, myself and you, mate, is to help everyone understand that. You mentioned the Western world, and the Eastern world, obviously, for millennia has done this stuff. So the Western world, we caught up in a bit of it's getting better because of the work you're doing, and I try to do in others, but they're caught up in their own rat race, quote unquote. So it's really cool that we're talking about this, because it's a huge passion of mine, mate. And the PERMA acronym is absolute gold. As you're talking about this stuff, mate, it runs great parallels with something that might interest some of our listeners and viewers in longevity and health span. Longevity and health span. I don't know if you touch on that, mate, but like everything we're talking about, me and you, everything I talk about every morning, in my platform, everything we talk about that you go in and talk to thousands of people about, it correlates to health span, which is what we mean when we say it's all very well getting to a certain chronological number of age, but the health, physical, emotional, mental health span, but you want to be engaged, you want to be moving at 95, and of course longevity is what it actually what it stands for there. So it's pretty cool. I think it does take time. You mentioned a few tips, which I'll get to more tips, but someone writing down gratitude or someone taking in the sunrise, it doesn't happen overnight. And that's what it's probably important for people. The positive psychology stuff is so powerful that it takes a little bit to take hold. And what's your advice for people that are just a bit impatient at times? Obviously, question off the cuff like most are, because I'm just thinking, like, I obviously see it and I know that it takes time. It's very important and people stick with it, but connecting to your purpose, your why, and your major, major meaning is crucial here. But what else can you give them?
Well, I think probably you're getting at the fact that you do have to be patient. You do have to trust the process. I think you use those words in your own business. I think that's really important. Just take small steps. Trust the process. Don't compare yourself to others. Make sure any little extra step you're taking is easy. Be realistic. You might not be able to go for a 40-minute walk a day at the end of the day, but you might be able to do a 20-minute one. Fabulous, terrific. You're off. That sort of thing. You may not be able to get an extra hour of sleep, but you may be able to get an extra half an hour. Those little pickups during the day really add up. So attitude with well-being is really important. I mean, you need to care about your well-being, but almost ironically, don't care that much that you stress about it either. Just put some simple things in place and let them take hold. And you have to realise, Rick, there's a little bit of science that helps us out here. When our brain starts to see good things in our life, the neural pathways to doing that again are opened up. So we start to see more positives. I was trained as in some of the fields that I've been trained in, law, etc. The name of the game was to make sure you're protecting your client and to look out for things that might go wrong for them. And I became very adept at that. Now I'm sort of flipping it and looking for things that are going right. Now, you need a bit of both in your life, and people that are in those fields should be thankful that they're in those fields and have brains that can do that. But it just may mean that you need to rebalance a little bit at the end of the day and focus on the things that have gone well and the things that are going well in your life. So yeah, I'd say care about it, but also just trust the process and start doing the little things. And of course, the other thing that helps us a lot is when habits are formed. So habits are very, very strong things in our lives, as you would well know. Anyone who gets up in the morning knows that they do things in exactly the same way as they did the day before. So if we can just learn to change habits a little bit by saying I'm going to go for a walk in the morning, or I'm going to walk out and see the sunset, or I'm just going to meditate while I'm on the train, the concept of habits will really help us on that journey forward.
Brilliantly said. And everything is, I'm in total agreement of, and I love it. And the habit forming stuff is crucial. Don't force it, don't stress about it, but just remember to come back to it. That is the thing. And I love the no stress about a routine. Let's not turn this into another stressor.
No.
We're trying to help ourselves. Any obstacles or hurdles, mate, that for people to look out for? Because it is a pretty, they come at us from every angle. So can you name a few just to maybe we can be aware of? And then if we've spoke about it and people can see it coming.
Well, I think when people know about certain things, it does give them power over it. We're advertised to an enormous amount these days. I've seen figures up to 4,000 ads a day, which seems a lot to me, but even if it was half that, the the subliminal message in many ads, not all, is that something that you've got needs to be upgraded or isn't good enough, stuff like that. And that incessantly at us can get us down a little bit. So we need to counteract that. We need to filter it out. If somebody's giving you a message that it's time for you to step up to a fancy car, which they can be great, and it may be time for you to do that, which is excellent, but it may not be. So if people are giving you that message, you've got to be able to just filter that out and say, no, I don't need that at the moment. I'm doing very well on the path I am. So, just the general commercial world sometimes puts challenges to our well-being in front of us. The other thing I think I spoke about early on was the negativity bias, which is inherent in all of us. It's very strongly proven that if we have two things of emotional weight in front of us at any one time, a positive or a negative, and they're of equal weight, we tend to, for survival reasons, give more attention to the negative, which is good because we're looking out for risk. However, if we're not aware of that, we can sometimes focus on the negative too much, more than it needs to, without thinking of all the positives. So there's that sort of inherent thing within us. And I think, we live in a world of social media now. People are going online a lot. They're looking at what other people are doing. They're seeing the show reels of life. And some of them aren't always representative or accurate. So I think that's also something that from time to time you need to make your own judgment on what you're going to filter out and what you need for your journey. And I think the fourth one that I've become aware of, and I don't know how well researched it is, but I think it's sort of latent there, is there's a lot of perfectionism in us these days. And it's a really great quality to be a perfectionist on many fronts. You're forcing yourself to do better. However, it has its dangers on the other side too, when we don't accept ourselves quite as quickly as we should. We don't have as much self-compassion for ourselves. So, sometimes we might just need to dial it down a little bit. And if you're a person who's a perfectionist, maybe just being excellent might be good enough for you, or whatever, or just very good is good enough. Stuff like that, Rick.
Yeah, I love that. A lot of old sayings that I've said for 2 decades coming through there. Progress over perfection is key. And it's really important because it's the self-love and the way we look at ourselves. And a lot of the dialogue that we speak to ourselves is worse subliminally, subconsciously, than any form of dialogue we'll say to anyone else. So it's really important that we get that covered. That's the last point was almost the most important one, I'd say, out of all those, because the other ones, if you've got that, then you can kind of deal with the advertising, social network, other crap coming at you. But I love the points about advertising and social network being subliminal because they're everywhere. You can't get away from it if you can weaponize yourself against it though, which is a great point, mate. And it's
yeah, well, we believe that self-awareness is the first step, Rick. So once you're aware of it and you know what's going on, you can filter it out. It's a lot better. So when I first became aware of these statistics and aware of what was happening, really made me sit back. And I'm not saying I'm good at filtering it all out, but I know when it's happening to me now, and I know when to sort of just walk away from it and ignore it.
I guess that's the point, isn't it, mate? Like we spoke about, and you talk about stats, and possible over numbering, like as far as too many numbers. 60,000 thoughts a day is the estimate. Now, whether that's true or not, 60,000 thoughts a day, and most of those thoughts are the same as the day before and the day before. So if they're not serving us and they're making us anxious or other things, or depressed or comparison, it's really important that we habitually and just purposefully change those ways, and being aware is the number one thing, because people would otherwise go through their life unaware of the thoughts and their emotions that aren't serving them, that are making them feel like absolute shit.
Well, the problem, a thought's a very natural part of life. We all have lots of thoughts, as you say. I think some people say 60,000, others say 6,000. I suppose it's A to define a thought, but the point is there's lots of them there. But being aware that they're just a thought is probably the first step. Sometimes they're so frequent that we start to believe that they're not a thought anymore, but they're the truth. And we catastrophize scenarios we think are going to happen, and we're convinced they are. And if you could just have that little bit of wisdom just for that one moment to say, hey, that's just a thought. Hang a minute. That's just a thought. That's the sort of slow working we can do to, really start to pick ourselves up a little bit and keep improving. You'll still have those thoughts, but, awareness around the fact that they're just thoughts, they're not proven truths, that can help. Really can.
Of course it can. And it's just about not attaching too much to it. And if this isn't gonna serve you or make you happier or better or healthier in the future, you and your purpose and your meaning and your why, your family or your friends, whatever it may be, then you just detach from it. It's just there. They're all there, thoughts and emotions and stuff that doesn't really make you happy. And you can go back towards this stuff habitually: gratitude, meaning, moments in the day, movement, all this stuff that's going to really make you the person you want to be. And I know we both talk about this a lot, but it's really important that people hear it over and over again, because like you said, negativity bias, catastrophizing things, not easy when you've been used to doing that. And to reprogram, rewire, refire different neural pathways takes time. So
you express it really well, perfectly well. That's exactly right. So it's something we have to consistently work on. I know even for me, I work in the field, and when I come to get ready for another workshop on gratitude, I start looking at the notes again and say, gee, I've forgotten about this in the last 6 weeks. We need to be constantly reminded. And, where we put our attention, whether we're, becomes in a sense our experiences, and our experiences become our lives. So yes, they're out there. Yes, there's sort of things that might just pull our happiness down, but there's also things that we can choose to focus on and make a little bit of an effort to focus on that can really lift our base level happiness.
Yeah, really well said, because it's daily, this stuff, listeners and viewers, and it's really important that what Mark and is talking about and what we talk about so often, that you remember this stuff daily. He doesn't have to. You're going to have moments. It's not going to be linear, but just keep coming back to this as a habitual thing. And the more often we can do it daily, frequently, doesn't even have to be for crazy lengths of time. Just frequency is the key. Whether you've got your system, or we talk about coming back to a system that we've got, Mark's system is going to be different to mine, but they're all going to be pretty similar. And it's really important that Mark has his system every day. And I'll get you to talk about your average day in a minute, but really important that he can come back to that system, no matter what other external stuff is going on, because Mark's got full control and he's got the tools in the toolkit. No one else can influence your happiness, mate, and your gratitude. So give us a bit of a rundown on a good day as far as your routines, Marco.
Yeah, no, that's interesting. I try and get up a little bit early, and I do 20 minutes of Qigong, which is basically might be best understood to be thought of as Tai Chi. It's very slow, mindful movement, and I do that in the darkness of the morning, just as it's starting to turn to light. So only 20 minutes of that, but it's mindfulness. It gets me in the moment. It's calming, and it gives me a bit of flexibility. I like to go for a walk. I try and walk after sunrise. I know from the science around sleep that getting early morning light helps to stimulate melatonin. So that's a good investment in my sleep, is to go for a walk in the morning with the morning light, and then I start to get into my day, try and do what everyone else does. You try and put a bit of protein in your breakfast, and you get into it. But if I can get a moment during the day where I don't have to be at my desk and I've done what I need to do for the moment, I go for a walk, a bit more light, a bit more movement. But please don't think I'm any expert at this. I am like everybody else. I'm trying to do my best, but I really feel passionate about the fact that these little things that you can do can really help people on average through their life.
No, it's a brilliant answer because it is little things with regularity. It's simple as that. There's no there's no panacea or bloody but it is. There's no one way to do it. It's just these little things. That routine, Marco, I love the Tai Chi. I got it wrong. What is
Yeah.
it?
Well, it's called Qigong, but you can call it
Qigong.
Tai Chi if you like.
Nah, Qigong, I'll say it right. I love that. It's getting up. You've got this routine that works, this system. You roll out of bed, you just go into it, your movement patterns, mindfulness, breath work, and everything else is just that you're in that present moment we speak about so often. And then you get your walk, which is obviously very important, skeletal muscle, physiology, neurotransmitters, and sunlight, which is obviously before Blu-ray light is the absolute key. So those things, bang, 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 and then you get on your day, the kids and your family and the work and all the things, but you've hardwired and you've weaponized yourself there.
I,
Love that. Love that.
well, thanks, Rick. And I suppose the important thing is that, we all have busy days, but if you can find even 10 seconds occasionally in your day to look out your window and see a tree and reflect on it, or the seasons that we're in, or look at the sun, look at where it is in the sky, something like that, as you said before, they're so powerful. If you can punctuate your day with even 10 minutes of 10 seconds of being grateful for something, or being your mind being focused on it, it's going to make a big difference over time.
Couldn't agree more. Love everything you're talking about, brother. Loving this magnificent. Now, Marco, we'll wrap it up very soon, but I really appreciate your energy and time. And this could be one of those ones. Obviously, we'll put Marco's stuff in the show notes, but you guys might want to listen to this a few times. A nice little 30 minutes of power here that's got heaps and heaps and heaps of gold. What's the next, just on a personal note, mate, the next 6 to 12 months? What's that hold for you?
It's a good question. I just want to do more of the same, in the sense of getting more of the programs out there, and doing more of this. So yeah, just seeing the kid. I always say the important things happen when you're not looking, and seeing the kids grow up, and got one heading to high school next year, so he's in the final year of primary school. I want to be as present as I can be through that. But I suppose that's led me to the most important goal of all. If you want a simple thing to start to move your wellbeing happiness, just try and be as present as you can in as many moments as you can. And something as simple as that can really have a big difference. So, when you're having a meal, try and be present, taste the food, be aware of what's in front of you, the company, the taste of the coffee in the morning. All those little bits of present awareness are so important, Greg.
My last question was going to be any final bit of advice, but you have absolutely nailed that then in 1 and 2. So done, you're done. That was amazing. Present moment only. Make sure the most important things happen when you're not looking. Great advice. Take that in 15 times over, listeners, because that is everything. What Marco is discussing then, sitting at the dinner table or breakfast, or even if it's a couple of times a week with loved ones, just really taking in the taste of your coffee, looking at a bit of the morning sunrise, the tree out the backyard, an animal walking past, whatever it may be. Love it. You can't top that, can you? Have you got any last words for us, brother?
Look, I think at the end of the day, we have to realize every second of our life is a precious moment that won't come back. So when you and I are walking our kids to school and picking them up, we may have left our desks and have something on or important is on our mind. But if we can just stop and say to ourselves, hey, this moment won't come back again. One day I'll look back and say they were the good old days. Just that little cue can just help you to stop and be in that moment a little bit more. And the great benefit will be not only better well-being and happiness, you'll get to a path down the track in your life, and you'll be able to have the satisfaction of saying, well, I was there. I do remember that. And that to me, the alternative is sad. If you rush through life on autopilot, you get to the end and you go, well, what happened then? So yeah, just trying to be with the moment.
Oh, mate, I'm so glad I got you to ask one more. That was everything. That's perfect. And I think anyone can relate. Now, if you listen to this and you might be in your 90s, it's never too late either. So really listen to Marco's words, and every day you can make the best day of your life. And really I reckon that last 5 minutes, mate, was just so beautiful. we spoke brilliantly and we spoke about stuff that's going to help everybody. And then if you can go back on the data and some of the tips Marco gave, but the last 5 minutes, that should hit everyone between the eyes, I would imagine, mate. So I really thank you. I really thank you. Now, where can we find you? We'll put in the show notes, but what's the website? Give us a plug.
The website, thanks for that, Rick. And thanks for your interest and generosity this morning. My website's called beyourbestnow.com.au. So, yeah, that's the way you'd find us.
Thanks. We appreciate it. We'll put the notes in of course, in the show notes. You can flick on all the podcast channels and YouTubes, of course. Mark Carrazzo, I really, really appreciate your energy and time. Love what you're doing. Love your messaging. And I've got no doubt that no matter where people are meeting themselves in life, for this, whenever they're listening or watching this, that they're going to get a lot out of that, and they're definitely going to help them moving forward to live every single minute in the moment. So thank you, Mark.
Thanks, Rick. Have a great day, mate.
I will, mate. I'll have a much better day now. As with the listeners, you've done something that's going to make you much better tomorrow by listening to Mark Carrazzo from Be Your Best Now. And it is, as Mark said, and as I always say, a magnificent day to be alive.